Welcome to the podcast. Nathan Newberry here, your host. I have Eric Rheam here joining us on the podcast. Super pumped for you guys to hear his story and also hear about some of the expertise as you guys are growing online, and all of our business owners and entrepreneurs that listen in here. You guys are going to have a really cool conversation to hear with Eric. Stay toward the end too, because we're going to talk about some tactics on some key things around books and speaking and some other cool elements on leadership and just development of everything. So stay tuned till the end while we go through there. Before we jump in, there is a free workshop down below that I put together as a free gift for everybody that's listening in here. If you're wanting to grow to 6 or 7 figures online, and you're really trying to figure out how to leverage AI, ads, building media teams, sales teams, go check that out. That's going to be a really helpful resource for you as you're growing online. Eric, as we're diving into it, I want to ask you a question that I think will really kind of help our audience kind of know a little bit more about you and some ways to learn from you. But what is high performance? How do you really kind of apply that to your life, or how you've been able to help people really kind of become their best self and rise to that level that they need to?
Yeah. Well, I think to me, high performance is, a couple things. One, I think it's self-awareness on what your strengths are. We're all blessed with certain unique talents, and leaning into those, being aware of what your talents are, and not to be afraid to lean into them. I think the second piece of it is being consistent in the actions you take to sharpen that talent that you bring out to the world. That's going to solve some kind of problem, add value. And then the third thing is surrounding yourself with really good people to help you elevate that talent that you bring out of the world, whether it be coaching and team. I think those three things, when you put those three things together, that to me is what equates to high performance.
And give the audience a little bit more clarity around what you do, because I know you have a podcast, you do a lot of speaking engagements. You're out in New York now, with your kids, but you were also in the military. Like, you did West Point, you did the corporate world. Now you're doing something like, talk to your clients now, or the audience here, about what you do and how you serve clients now.
Well, I'm a professional speaker and author. Podcasting is more just about supporting my clients and things like that. But really, where I make hay and support the lifestyle that I desire is really speaking. That's my main thing. So I'm a professional speaker, author. I've written 6 books. We're in the process of writing a 7th book, just because I'm a writer. I love to write. In fact, in my dream world, Nathan, if I could just write all day, I would do that. I just love it. I love the transformation of writing. I think it's a very important skill set, just to be able to. I think everybody should write. I think something magical happens when you put stuff down on paper. It's just the process of it all. But what I do is I travel the country. I speak to about 20,000 people a year, is what I think we calculated. And we help overwhelmed busy professionals cut through the whirlwind so they can rise above the chaos, discover significance, and live in peace. My fundamental premise is I believe we all want to achieve some level of significance in our life. I think we all want that. We all want to know that we had an impact. I mean, Nathan, you don't want to get at the end of your life and realize that it meant nothing, right? I mean, you don't want to get at
Right.
the end and evaluate and take stock of your life as you're taking your last breath and you're just thinking, was it worth it? You don't want to look back at it and realize that you meant nothing to nobody. I mean, we all want to have some level of impact. But the problem is, in order to have some kind of impact, you need the help of others. And no one has ever done anything of significance without the help of others. And so that the whole idea of just mastering that human dynamics and yourself and that inner beast, I call it the beast, and the methodology around that, and just helping people, rediscover that passion that they had, and then redefine that purpose, but more importantly, get the courage to do something about it. That's really what gets me going. So I was just, like I said, I was in Iowa last week, about 700 people I was able to interact with out there. And when you're up there speaking, you can see visibly, it's that tangible feedback, real time, when it's really connecting with someone, and you know that you're making a difference. In fact, after I was done, the event planner said, one of the people that was in the audience, and this is not a testament to me. I think, to me, I just show up, and the people that need to hear what they hear, they'll hear it. And this guy said it was life changing. And I love that. I mean, I love to hear that at that, because I've been there. I've been the person in the audience, listened to the speaker, and they said something that made the difference, and it's fun to be able to pass that on. So that's what I do. That's how I make money. I love doing it. It's fantastic.
And then to talk about the origin story of Eric, man. I mean, you lived in Germany for a while. You went to West Point. Like, how did you know you're a little bit different? I mean, was this like selling lemonade that you kind of realized, hey, as a kid, I'm a little bit different than most, and you're wired a little bit, and then now you're discovering, and you coined the term of like beast, like you have this beast mode. How did you come up with that, and what was that leading up to your success?
Yeah. I don't know if I would say I'm different or not. I think I'm just like anybody else. I'm just you're trying to find your place in the world, what matters to you, what you value, where you can have an impact, where you find your flow state, I guess. For me, I grew up. My dad was a police officer, so he started out in New York. He was 40 years a police officer, and he was chief of police his last 8. And police officers, firefighters are some of the biggest entrepreneurs out there, man. They've always got side hustles. So I just grew up watching my dad. He always had a side hustle. In fact, I didn't see him very often. He'd go fight crime during the day, put on his uniform. I was nine years old watching that. I just thought he was a superhero because that's what superheroes do. And so he'd go out and fight crime. Then he'd come back, take off his uniform, and go out and eat real quick. Go out in the cover of darkness and paint lots all night. The lines that you park in. That was his side hustle. And I was old enough to get out there. He had me going out there with him. If I wanted to buy a bike, I had to go earn it. So I'd go out with my dad and paint some parking lots and get that done. He also owned like a beauty salon. He owned lake cottages, a ceiling business. My mom was in home interiors and gifts. That's multi-level marketing. She was #1 in the country. And so she was a powerhouse. And so I just grew up with parents just making, hey, they both came from really poor backgrounds and I had lived a good lifestyle because of them. So I saw the tangible equation of if you go out and create something, produce something, add value, then there's a one-to-one relationship on what your lifestyle is going to look like. So that was planted in me, but I never really pursued like being an entrepreneur like that. I just went into the Army because I was fast enough. I got recruited by West Point because I was a runner and I had full ride scholarship offers to several Division I schools to go run cross country and track. West Point was one of those, and they had one of the top 5 running programs in the country. So I went out there because I wanted to run with fast guys, and then got out there and realized real quick, wait, this is military, and was able to align my values with that and said, okay, I can do this. And so I just went to the military because that's what I was supposed to do. When you go to West Point, the taxpayers pay for it, right? And so in order for you to pay back that debt to the taxpayers, you serve 5 years. And so I went into military police, went to Bosnia Herzegovina. We were the first Americans to cross the Sava River in 1996. We were there to separate the Muslims and Serbs from kill one another. I'm at 23 years old. That's where I came face to face with really the dark side of humanity and really saw what people were willing to do to one another. And it kind of changed the way I looked at people and became fascinated by human dynamics and started studying that. And then that's something that I just had a passion for. So I just pursued that passion, not sure what I was going to do with it. And then found myself getting out of the military, met a girl, fell in love, and she was in Indiana. I was in Colorado. She had a boyfriend at the time in New York. I wanted to win her heart over, Nathan. So I got a job where she lived so I could be close to her. Could care less about the job, just want to be close to her, happened to be in the utility space. We within 6 months of moving there, we got engaged. 9 months later, we were married.
Wow.
Decided to stay in the utility business. Was only making like $50,000 or $60,000 a year, 9-to-5 job. Wasn't what I was in my heart I wanted to do. Really hit a rock bottom in 2005 where I just wasn't happy with my life. Things weren't going well. My marriage wasn't going well. Me and my dad got in a big fight. We weren't talking to one another. I got suspended at work because I didn't have purpose, man. And that's what I realized with people is if you don't have purpose, then you have a gap in there and it gets filled with something. It's usually something destructive. And I just wasn't living up to what I thought I should be. So I was able to figure out a way to get out of that. I got myself after about a 10-year journey where I was just starting to crush it again and stumbled upon speaking really. And the only reason why I stumbled upon it was because I would go sell. I was a vendor at these conferences and I would sit with all these other vendors and people in between workshops would come see us. I'm like, how can I get them to see me more often? I want people to come see me. I thought, well, maybe if I got on stage and spoke, I would become like a mini celebrity at the conference, and they'd want to come to my booth. So I started speaking just because I was a strategy. Turned out I kind of liked it. A couple people said you're pretty good at it, and I thought, what if I pulled this string a little bit and explored this? And so I just explored speaking because I was halfway decent at it. And then once I started to figure out I had something, that's when I linked up with Grant Baldwin and say, how do I build a business around this? And then I was off to the races.
And then you talked about like you like writing books too. Do
Oh,
you
yeah.
dictate what you do, or are you the old guy that's like writing all the words? Like how do you in your process like really look at writing as kind of like a really focused thing that you like doing, and how do you do it? Because I'm just intrigued by it.
Yeah. But I am the old guy. I'm 50. I'm going to turn 52 in a few weeks. My daughter said,
That's
once you
still
turn
young.
50, you're old. I guess if that I am that. I don't like talking. I like to write. In fact, I didn't write for many years because I was in an honors English class in high school, and I remember her name, Dr. Malarkey. She told me I wasn't a good writer. And I just figured I wasn't any good. So I just didn't pursue it, even though I had a passion for writing. Turns
Mm.
out it was not that I wasn't a good writer. I wasn't a good editor. Right. And so I didn't realize there was a difference. So after about 2 decades of just thinking I wasn't a good writer, finally, as actually when I got suspended, I wrote a novel just because I needed to do something during that suspension and get out of my head. And I liked it. And so I just started exploring writing. And so I just started writing. I read a book, Stephen King wrote it. It's called A Book on Writing. And basically Stephen King said, number one, write about what you know. And number two, just write. And so I just started writing. And then as I started speaking became kind of my workbench, Nathan, as kind of a way for me to test ideas. And once I started figuring out I had some ideas, then back when blogs were big, I started a blog just as a habit to write and started getting feedback by who liked what. And I saw it was a big hit on one article I wrote that people really liked, and it was kind of crickets on others. So between speaking and writing my blog, I started to realize there was some stuff I had that I think I could unpack here. And so then I decided I want to go ahead and write a book. I did the first one with a company out in DC where they wanted me to write something on something specific for them. So I wrote for them more than anything. I did that twice. And then I wrote a couple little mini books, but then I wrote my big one, Rise Above Chaos. That one was for me. And all I did was I just, like everything else, I just wrote I approach everything in like hour increments on a daily basis. So I just wrote an hour a day. I got up at 4:30 and had an idea where I wanted to take it. And I just started writing. I didn't worry about editing. I didn't worry about where it was going. I just started writing. And then after about 3 or 4 months of that, I had a book. And then I got an editor and said, all right, start editing for style. We started taking stuff out. And a few months later, it was a full-fledged book. And that was it. It wasn't that hard for me. And that's what I find when you lean into your strengths. I'm a communicator. When you lean into your strengths, it's not hard. So when people say, yeah, I wrote a book, it was really hard. I didn't think it was hard at all. I think it's pretty easy actually, because it's my strength. Right. And so I enjoy it. I loved it. It was fun.
How important is it right now with your career in speaking that you had a book? Because I know
Huge.
sometimes there's a combination there. It's like if you don't have a book, you can't get speaking engagements, or trying to get speaking engagements is like a dual win because you can actually make extra money from it too. Like how important is it?
But you don't need a book to get speaking engagements. Proof of that. For many years, I think my book came out in 2020, maybe 2021. I've been speaking for 7 years before that. I actually started thinking about writing a book because I got in trouble, actually. So I was speaking, on the speaking trail, and I got an email from a very well-known speaker. He's a best-selling author. He was a former president of the National Speakers Association. It was a very lawyered-up letter, and he said, "Cease and desist talking about my book on stage," or something like that. And it freaked me out, Nathan, because I was new to speaking. I thought, am I going to speaker jail? I mean, what's up with this, And so his book, I liked it, and I spoke about it for about 5 minutes on stage and recommended people buy the book. It was fantastic. Somebody recorded it and sent it to him, and he didn't like it. And so, to his credit, I asked him. I said, "No problem, sir. I won't mention it ever again. But would you mind taking a phone call?" And he graciously agreed. So I remember I was on a way to a speaking gig. I'll never forget, because I was right outside of Louisville, and I pulled over and got him on the phone, not sure how it was going to go. And he was actually very gracious to me. And he said, "Listen, basically, as a new speaker, you're just doing book reports. You just talk about other people's stuff." He goes, "If you want to be a long-term, really good speaker, you got to write your own stuff and speak on that." And so that planted a seed, like, oh, because up to that point, I didn't even think about writing a book, to be honest. And then so I thought maybe I need to write a book. And then Mike Hyatt, he was my mentor for several years, and I would go see him with a group of other guys about once every 3 months in Franklin, Tennessee. And I remember him telling me that you need to write a book. He told me a couple times, and he said our society elevates professional authors even over PhDs and MBAs. For some reason, our culture, we really value authors. And he said, if you do that, that'll elevate your game. And so I decided to do it because of those two situations that I ran into.
How do you balance with having 3 kids, marriage that you've been married to for a wife that's for 25 years? You're a runner. You're a Madden fan. You're
Yeah.
writing books. How do you
Yeah.
balance all the stuff you're doing, man? and speaking so much per year?
I don't. I don't think there's any such thing as a balance. I really don't. I think that's a misnomer. I think if you're seeking balance like that, it's just never something that happens, you know? Instead, what I do is I focus on the things that matter to me. I prioritize and try to do those things first. And if the other things that are low on the priority list don't make it that day, they just don't make it. So a priority for me, like for instance, is sleep. Because as I get older, I mean, this is my own health. And so sometimes I let things go to get to bed a little early to my wife's chagrin. She gets mad at me sometimes. Like, I thought we were going to watch a show. I was like, man, it's 9:30. I got to go to bed, you know? In the morning, first things I do in the morning are the things that really matter. And so when I get done with you, I am going to play Madden because I need to just de-stress, but I'm going to go work out first. Right. And so that's what happens is I focus on the key things that really matter. And the other thing I've really gotten really good at, and actually Mike Hyatt taught me this too, is I got really good at identifying the things that only I can do. And then all the other stuff that other people can do just as good as me, if not better, or things that drain me. I just systematically got them out of my life. You know, I'll give you just a really simple example. I remember one day I was mowing my lawn at home in Indiana when we lived there. And it takes me about 2.5 hours to mow it on a Saturday. And I was thinking, why am I doing this, man? I'm wasting my time. And I only did it because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. I realized I could pay some kid to do this $20 an hour and then get this 2.5 hours back. And then I got addicted to it. Then I was like, what else can I get rid of? I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, I'll give you a simple one, email. You know, it would take me 3 hours a day to process email. I'm like, why am I doing this? And so once I had cash flow, I just put money into that and hired someone to process my email for me. And so even my clothes, I don't pick out my own clothes anymore. I mean, I just started systematically just push getting stuff out of my life
Mm-hmm.
and only keeping things in there that really mattered. And even with that, I mean, there's times I just get really out of balance. It goes in seasons. But because I have a filter of what's important to me, the things that make it to the top make it to the top consistently enough that it matters. So the only thing I can do that's unique is only 3 people on this earth can call me dad. My kids. I'm only one husband with one wife, and I create content. That's about it. Everything else is secondary, you know. And if I could do those things, I'm good to go. And everything else is just kind of icing on the cake there.
How do you say no to things? We're in a world of so many opportunities to leverage things online, like communities, courses, upsells of sorts that you can do. But when I asked you that before, you're like, I just speak and write books. There was probably a process in your mind where you literally had to say, no, I'm not going to go down that road. Why? And I'm
Yeah.
curious.
Well, I had a mentor of mine. His name was Howie. He came into my life at a really critical time. I think there's a time in your life when you're building your business or you're creating value in your wealth that you say yes to everything because you have to. You mean you just got to say yes to everything until you get momentum and you kind of find your flow state. And then you have to start to systematically then carve things out. So I don't think it's just in the beginning. Like if I started saying no to things, I wouldn't have made it because you just got to get something going. And so I remember my mentor, he said, you really got to get good at making quality decisions and then managing those decisions. I'm reading a book right now. I can't think of the name of it, but he talks about pre-deciding. And so when you pre-decide on what you're really going to focus on, then it's easy to say no ahead of time because you've already made the decision.
Right.
You know, like something as simple. I'll give you something simple. I pre-decided that I was going to be faithful to my wife. This is something, I mean, you all relate to that. And so whenever there's a situation that came up, it was already decided. So it was easy for me to say no because it was already decided.
Hmm.
You know, I pre-decided that I want to be a healthy eater. And so outside of a crisp beer, so if somebody says, hey, you want a soda? No, it's easy for me to say no because I've already pre-decided, right? And so it's like that with everything in my life. Yeah, I make a pre-decision on this is what's important to me. And when the situation comes up, I don't have to think about it. It's a very binary thing because I've already made the decision. And the way I make those decisions is I do an annual retreat every year. So I take a 1 week. One year, it was just fun, Nathan. I actually jumped on a train in Indianapolis and took it on a sleeper car to Seattle. And that took 3 days to get there, then spend another 2 or 3 days in Seattle, and then flew home. And so during that week, I think about all the things that are important to me, things that are not important to me, things I got to get rid of, things I need to add, things I need to shed, what I want to focus on. And I spent that week pre-deciding the next year what's going to be important to me. That way, all my no's were already pre-done. So when people come my way, it's already no because I've already made the decision. So once you pre-decide that like that, it's easy to say no to things.
Mm. I think that's good, man. I'm wondering with your career in speaking, you had mentioned something where it's like one event you'll get, two or three out of it. What's your process of like getting gigs and then multiplying that? Well, I'm curious how you do that.
Yeah. Well, I think the main thing with getting gigs for me, I made a fundamental decision. I wasn't going to cold call Nathan, not because I don't think it's a good way of doing things. It's just I didn't have time. Oh, I was a single income family. You got 3 young kids, right? And at the time, I think my kids were about your age when I really thought about doing the speaking thing. And so I had a full-time job, 40, 50 hours a week. And we're a single income family. So I had to figure it out. And so I just didn't have time. And I knew if I was going to do cold calls, it was going to take too much time. So that number one, I just made a fundamental decision. I was only going to connect with people I had name recognition with. That's it. And I was going to lean into that. Then what I did is I just made a decision. I was going to consistently prospect and reach out to people 5 to 7 days out of the 7 days a week. And I would not take my foot off the gas. I showed up every single day. I just did that 1 hour. For me, I find there's a lot of value in just being consistent. You don't need to do Herculean 8-hour prospecting sessions. You just need to do a little bit every day and never stop. And so I decided to do that. You didn't have to be good at it. I didn't need to be good at it. I just needed to do it. And then I also made a decision that when I did get hired, I was going to do anything free, paid, didn't matter. And I was going to over deliver. So I'd get a good reputation. And then I made a decision and this actually, I found this, I did this by mistake. I backed into this and one of my first paid gigs, I got paid $1,000 to go to Florida. And there was a guy that hired me. His name was Barry, nice guy, but I think he knew I was a new speaker and he was a veteran event planner. I think looking back at it now, he was just protecting his stage, but he was really manipulative and kind of condescending and kind of really controlling to the point I didn't want to do it. And my wife, luckily, she taught me out of it and said, just do the gig. You'll be fine. So I did it. He had me go in front of some big time speaker. This guy was an Air Force Academy grad, fighter pilot, fantastic. He paid him like 10 grand to do his talk. He paid me 1,000. So I did my talk. And then after it was over, a couple of days later, he emailed me and said, I'd like to get on the phone with you. I thought, great. Are you serious? You kicked me all the way up to this thing. Now you're going to kick me on the other end of it. I'm not interested. My wife's like, calm down. She even told me to calm down last night. There's a there's a consistency here. My wife is my governor. She's like, just chill out. And so, I got on the phone with him, and to his credit, this is what he said. He said, Eric, I didn't believe in you coming into it, but I got to say, you did a good job. I'm looking at the surveys and you had the highest rated talk, even above the guy I paid the 10 grand for. He goes, I think you got something and I want to help you. And he goes, I want to introduce you to some of my event planner friends. And so he was kind of leading me because he knew I didn't know what to do. And so I thought he was going to give me like 2 or 3 names, but that's not what he did. He gave me a spreadsheet with 80 names on it, 80
Wow.
event planners.
Wow.
And then he sent an email out to all of them and said, this is Eric. He's a new speaker. He crushed it at my conference. He was the highest rated speaker. I think you should give him a shot. So then what I did was I followed up with all those guys. 4 of them actually hired me. And then I thought, well, what if I just duplicated what I did with Barry? And so what I did was I got really intentional about following up. So if you hired me, Nathan, I would say, Nathan, could you mind if we set up an exit interview? That way I can close a loop with you. And this is how you get better as a speaker. I want to get some feedback. And so you would agree to it. I'd get it on the calendar before the event happens because I want to make sure it's on the calendar. And then 2 weeks after, I would just ask you a series of questions. Give me some feedback. What can I do better? Hey, can I get a testimonial? Can I use your organization's name as a past client? And then I would say, Nathan, how can we work together again? What I find is when you ask people something, it's amazing how they will give you good answers. And if you make it a foregone conclusion that you expect to work again, it's amazing to me how people will live up to your expectations. So I just made it a foregone conclusion. We're going to work together again. So it's like, what are we going to do? What's the next project? And then I have the discussion with you and we decide what's next. Sometimes they hire me, sometimes they don't, but I at least ask the question. And then I would ask this key one. And I would say, who are 2 people like you, Nathan, I need to talk to, and can you introduce me to them? Now, the key thing is I always ask for 2 names because that's an easy ask. If I ask for 2 names, Nathan, you can come up with those pretty quickly. If you say, who do you know? That's too big of an ask. So I just ask for 2 names. A lot of times they give me more than that, but just by doing that systematically, I always get gigs out of gigs without fail. And it's never really failed me, and it's fantastic.
That's smart, man. What about raising your prices over time? How do you go about that?
Well, what I do is I have a range, and actually, I learned this from Ken Davis and Michael Hyatt, actually, and their manager taught me this, and he calls it a bracket approach. And so, what you want to do is you want to think about what your minimum is. My mom, who is a good entrepreneur, said it's got to be worth it for you too. So, what is that minimum? And then, what is the target? Okay, so you start with a minimum of target. So in the beginning, my minimum was free. If you let me on stage, that was hallelujah. I'm on your stage. My target was like 1,000. And then what happens is then you just kind of read the market. So if I'm a 0 to 1,000 and it's not hard for me to get booked, right? And I can fill up my capacity. Like let's say if I'm going to speak 50 times a year, and I can fill up my calendar pretty quickly, that's a signal from the market that I can raise my prices. Now, what Michael Hyatt and Ken Davis taught me was that you can raise the bottom or the top, but you can't raise both. You got to pick one. So let's say that I decide to raise the floor and go from free to 500, and I stay at 1,000. Now I test the market on that, and if it's easy for me to get booked, then I keep my 500 at the low end and I move the 1,000 to 2,500 and see what the market does. If it's easier for me to get booked, that I just keep ratcheting it until suddenly, if it starts to slow down and I find people pushing back more, then maybe I've reached my sweet spot. So then what you got to do in that moment is you either got to up level your product or what you're providing, or you need to up level your market, meaning that you've reached the peak in your market. The key that for me, what I learned when it comes to speaking is I don't dictate what I'm worth. I hear speakers say all the time, well, I think I should be getting paid this. Well, nobody cares what you think. Well, it's the market. So the market will tell you based on how quickly and how hard it is to get hired. And based on that, you got to start kind of making those adjustments. What you don't want to do is price yourself out of the market, and then it's hard to go back. The other thing too is not all events are created equal. I have no problem charging you, Nathan, 10 grand and someone else 20 grand for the exact same talk. Right. And I do that based on different variables, time of year, because time of year matters. So I have seasonal rates and location. So that all matters. In fact, I just had this happen with an event planner. He goes, hey, can you give us a break? I said, yeah, I'll give you a break if you do it on this exact date. Right. And the reason why I chose that was because I was already going to be out there. And I thought, well, if you want a break and you could do it on the date that I want, then I'll do it. But if you want to do it on this date, I want to charge you the full price because I can get anybody to hire me on that date. The other thing I did that was pretty key with pricing is I do day prices. I don't do event prices. So Nathan, if you were to hire me, whether you ask me to do a keynote or if you ask me to do a workshop, it's all the same price. And I tell them the reason for that is once I'm with you, I can't be anywhere else. My inventory are the days that I speak. So what I tell people is use me and abuse me, Nathan. If I want to be there, let me do a keynote. I'll do a breakout. I'll meet with your leadership team. I don't care, but it's going to be the same price. And so it makes it very simple that way.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Man, oh man. Eric, how do you then do, if you do 50 a year, how do you have a relationship with your wife? Does she go with you sometimes? Like I can only imagine that being difficult with you, or your wife, or kids.
It's not that bad. I would say it actually makes it better to some degree because I think you appreciate people more when when you're not around them, and so when you are, that quality time becomes really key. The
Okay.
other thing too is I would tell you that we have a better relationship now when we see each other less than when we saw each other all the time. Not because of that, but because I'm doing what I love,
Hmm.
and because I do what I love, I'm more at peace. And because I'm more at peace, I come back with a better attitude, things like that. It's not perfect. I mean, right now, my wife's time is really filled with really taking care of the kids. I mean, all three kids, well, they're 1 mile up the road at West Point. So my wife's constantly supporting them and helping them. My daughter still lives at home. She works in my company. She's 21, but eventually she's going to move out. And so when the boys go off in the Army, it's just going to be me and my wife. We may need to shift that a little bit and evolve and talk about how we can really connect on a greater level. But right now it's working really good for us. So in fact, sometimes people ask me like, your wife lets you go on a week-long retreat? I said, yeah, she likes it when I come back because I'm in a better situation. And it's usually she joins me at the end of the retreat because it's usually somewhere cool and we do
Hmm.
something fun together. So
That's good.
I think the main thing is all about expectations. And part of it was, because I travel a lot, we used to live in Indiana. She didn't like living in Indiana. So she's the one that's at home more than I am. So you better believe I wanted to move somewhere she wanted to be, because that way when I'm traveling, she's loving where she is, and she's actually loving New York right now. So she's enjoying it.
Good. Man, oh man. Eric, how can we, the audience here, connect with you further?
Well, it just depends on what they want, right? So if you want to hear more about the Rise Above Chaos system, or you just want to see about how I'm doing things and look at my website and kind of see how I run things, just go to ericrheam.com. So I'm the only Eric Rheam in the world. So if you Google me, it's kind of cool. There's no other one out there. My mom must have knew that going into it. She was foreshadowed like that was going to be important. And if you're interested in speaking, I don't work with people directly, but I do work with people through the Speaker Lab. So if anybody's interested on how to explore a speaking career, if they're interested in how they can translate their life or their achievements or their methodologies and bring it on stage, I would just go to the Speaker Lab. And you've already talked to Grant about that. So just go to thespeakerlab.com and you can work with me there.
That's awesome, man. I'll put those links down below. Everybody go connect with Eric further, go buy his book, be inspired by him. Hopefully you guys will see him on stage speaking one of these days, as you're always self-improving and growing. Eric, thanks so much for being on. Thanks for listening and tuning in. Follow Eric, go check out that workshop down below, and we will see you on the next episode.